Welcome to the House of Labor. This is Studio 371, the podcast. Here on Mighty Union Digital Originals, your source for information and insight about our union. We're broadcasted from New York City. Now here's your host, SSCU Local 371 President, Anthony Wells. Shirley Anita Chisholm was born in Brooklyn, New York on November 30th, 1924, when she graduated from Brooklyn College and earned a master's degree at Columbia University. Chisholm was the first African-American woman to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1969 to 1983. Prior to her service in Congress, she served in the New York State Legislature. Shirley Chisholm had long been known for breaking barriers. She was the first African-American woman to seek a major party's nomination for U.S. president. During her run, Chisholm pushed a platform focused on racial and gender equity, elevating those issues to the national stage. Her slogan was, "Unbought and unbossed," illustrates her outspoken advocacy for women and minorities. She campaigned throughout the country and was on the ballot in 12 primaries in what largely was an educational campaign. She received 152 delegate votes at the Democratic National Convention. Of her legacy, Chisholm once said, "I want to be remembered as a woman who dared to be a catalyst of change. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair."
Is that awesome? For me personally, so I lived on Herkimer Street and between Bedford and Nostrand. Shirley Chisholm's headquarters was right around the corner on Nostrand. And I remember giving out flyers for Shirley Chisholm in her first run. What they just said, all three of y'all are examples of. So before I go into my other piece, because we got to talk about labor. Got to talk about labor now. Y'all, we got to talk about labor. And give me your biggest fight or your most memorable fight or challenge. And I don't care if it was your fight in third grade, or I don't care if it was the challenge of Vanice saying you had to do two cultures and learn how to do that, or the fight in the Bronx that you had. Okay, so just give me an idea, which is the most challenging fight or challenge that you have experienced in your life. Let's start off with you, Darcel, then we'll go to Brooklyn and back to the Bronx.
I think the most challenging thing is to really change the mindset of a community that a DA is not just somebody who's interested in throwing everybody in jail. It takes some time to get people understand that the DA is a lot more than that. There's some people I'm never going to change their mind about that, but as they get to know me, and one thing about anybody who knows me is like, and I've always heard this throughout my time, "Oh, you don't seem like a judge." Well, I can't believe you're the DA. You seem so down to earth. You seem so regular. And that's who I am. You know what I mean? I'm my authentic self. And I only speak in my authentic voice. And once people know that and they understand the passion and the commitment that I have, it's easy for me to convince them. Look, I'm a lawyer. I could persuade anybody if I really put my mind
if
to
you
it.
Want to, right?
And that's what I do. I mean, even as a judge on the appellate division, you have to be a consensus builder. You have to get people to see things and want to do things your way because it's the right way. It's what's going to be fair and it's what's going to be best for the community. And that's what I step out each and every day to do, is to convince people that they can be a part of doing this work with me. We do it together in order to make the Bronx a safer place. And I've been, community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, I'm trying to convince people of that. They're seeing that I am one of them. When my neighbors hear gunshots, you know who else hears them? I hear them too, because I live there with them. I go to the same churches, same supermarket, same gas station. Vanessa and I march in the same streets for peace. We talk to the same people. They need to know that I am a person that's approachable and that I'm committed to doing the work. And that's what they need to see of their DA. They need to see more of the DA and not me being, Vanessa and I was having this conversation about working with the federal authorities. I have to work with them as well. But, the feds have always been seen as the boogeyman, That's what the DA was, too. I like the boogeyman or the boogie woman. I'm the first woman DA in the Bronx and the first Black woman elected DA in the whole state of New York. I want to make this count. And that's what I do each and every day for people to understand that I'm making this count. As women, we can tell you, we lead differently because we lead with our head and our hearts. That empathy is something that not everybody has. You got to be able to have that, be able to manage it, and be able to make it work for you and the work that you have to do. So women leadership is a totally different thing. These men could all say what they want, but we work extra hard. We have the compassion, we have the empathy, and we have the commitment to get the work done. And nobody can hold a candle to us. So I know there's challenges out there, but I'm not afraid. And what keeps me, grounded is, of course, my faith, but also having sisters like these two here. We have to lift each other up. When other people are not looking, we're on the phone with each other, sitting down. What can I do to help you? Or what do you need? Just being that person to vent, that sounding board, or to come up with different ideas. We have to be able to support each other. And, women don't always do that. And Black women especially, sometimes we could be extremely vicious with each other, and we have to do better. And we are better. And we're examples of that when it works. When it works. And just Black people in general, we have to do this on behalf of our communities. Sometimes our worst enemies, sometimes the biggest challenges come from our very own. You know what I mean? As they say, skin folks ain't always kin folks, We have to make sure that we take care of each other. We have to show love for each other. And a lot of times we don't do that. Like, we can't be afraid to say, Vanessa, I love you, or I'm proud of you, Ronise. We don't do that enough. So as we take these positions, that's what we have to constantly do. That's part of reaching back and bringing people up with us. So when you say we're in the present, we are, but we also have to reach back and pull somebody up so that they could be the future.
Absolutely. Ronise, biggest challenge, biggest fight that you have had in your life?
I would say the biggest challenge and the biggest fight that I've had was around health, and it's twofold. Okay, one was trying to keep my mother alive, and understanding how labor was a big part of keeping her alive, right? I had to understand what seniors go through in terms of the medical health system, Medicaid, Medicare, and how dysfunctional it is against Black people, poor people, and seniors, in particular seniors. And, as a caregiver, I also understood why my mother loved her union so much, Hotel Trade Council, because they made things affordable for her. She was able to get, access to healthcare through her insurance. It was affordable. Whenever she needed help, she get her pension, whatever resources as a retiree, it was there. And I understood, when my mother passed, I understood why she fought as a delegate, why she marched on rallies for workers' rights and all of that. It was for people like me, for our generations, to make sure that we were able to have, good wages so that we can put food on the table. It was enlightening, and just being part of that journey of just people and labor and healthcare. It's a continuous fight. And then I became part of that fight when, in 2016, I was pregnant and, went to Columbia Hospital and I was experiencing preterm labor because I had my cervix open. And going to the hospital, they didn't want to take care of me because insurance didn't cover a woman who's with 5 to 6 months. It just didn't, and they could not do anything. They didn't want to do anything, and they sent me home to die. And they sent me home for my child to die. You don't know what kind of fight it was in me, not to sue, not to yell. I lost my child, but I didn't lose him in vain. I went to another hospital. They took care of me. And again, healthcare is so huge. But the discriminatory practices around healthcare and how it could break or make you, it's a fight, and it's continued to be a fight. So Black maternal care has been a fight for me, the biggest fight, to make sure that, women, writing laws to make sure that women don't continue to be abused, Black women in particular, and treated like dogs. A hospital should not be a place where people die or Black women get killed. It should be a place where we're finding a place of refuge and life, and to birth more life. And so, part of my fought, I named the bill after my son. It took 4 years. It was a 4-year fight where the hospitals cannot turn any woman away when they're dealing with complications of preterm. No matter if the insurance says, oh, we don't cover it, or there's no hospital beds, you cannot turn a woman undergoing pregnancy complications and so forth away. So healthcare is huge for me in many different aspects, from birth to senior, and the inequities that exist in our community is so alarming. Black women dying at a much higher rate than white women, giving birth. I was thankful to open up a maternal care in my district with Morris Heights. Morris Heights came from Bronx, so Bronx, give it up to Bronx. And now they have a chapter in Brooklyn. Morris Heights. Yep, Morris Heights. They have a chapter in Brooklyn now where the second floor is dedicated to maternal care. We got funding from the state. And, so to me, equity, is important. And that continues to be a fight for me. A big, big fight. I end it there.
So I'm going to switch the question up a little bit, Vanessa, about that. And go to, tell me about your relationship with labor. Whether, or when did you start having a relationship with labor, or when did you know about unions? I learned about unions as an adult. Okay? I learned about unions really when I came to work for the city. I really didn't know about unions as much. So you could pick any time in your life, and you could pick anything that made you understand what it was about or what your relationship is with organized labor.
Yeah, so I came to know organized labor in my role working in state government, working first for Aurelia Green, and then in 2009 when I got elected to the state assembly, obviously working with PEF, and working with New York State laborers and so many of the groups that represented not just state workers, but they cared about construction safety, construction education, obviously 32BJ, DC 37, 1199, NISNA. I learned about everyone, and they came to me as a legislator. They introduced themselves, talked about their members, who their members were, who they represented, how they affected my particular district in the Bronx, and really what their legislative agenda was. And to me, that was the beginning of a long relationship and a partnership over my time as an elected official. And of course, I've seen the challenges that unions and organized labor has faced. I've seen so many efforts to union bust, so many opportunities where we've seen from a national perspective, there just being the threat to organized labor. And when you think about the pathway to middle class, when you think about African Americans and Latino families really getting that American dream and that pathway to the middle class, it's really been because of organized labor. I am a child of labor. My late father was a longtime member of 1199. He worked for 25 years at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital for many, many years. And as he retired, unfortunately, he was stricken with lung cancer. And it was, just trying to help my dad and keep him alive and healthy. And he didn't live long after he was diagnosed. But because of the fact that he was a member of 1199, he paid his dues. He had job security. My brother and I were protected because we were able to gain his pension that he never saw because he passed away. My brother and I received that for 10 years. And that's just because of the great institutions that labor has always been. So for me, this is about just supporting and protecting organized labor, and obviously being in the council, working even more closely with all of our labor unions, and certainly a lot of the locals like 371 and 372 and 420, because we've had so many issues from city government, whether it's SAPIS workers, school safety agents, crossing guards, custodial engineers, right? Everybody. And so I've been able to learn about what members are from our districts and from our borough. And now as the borough president, it's much easier because I know who all the players are. And of course, we've lost some great labor leaders over the years. And I just want to continue to support labor as much as I can. We don't always agree, but one thing I know that we always agree on is our fight to protect our members, to give them the support, the stability they need. I remember the fight for airport workers, the fight for car wash shadows, fast food workers, so many vulnerable, marginalized people of color that look like us, and all they want is job stability. And now, I know there's an effort to organize the legislative staff in the city council, which I supported as I left. I know there's an effort to organize Amazon workers. Like, this should be, to me, the bare minimum, right? This should be the bare minimum of standards of what we set when you talk about organized labor and raising the labor standards in our city.
Thank you. Darcel.
Well, I started out as my father worked as a caretaker in NYCHA. So the same housing project I lived in, my father worked in. So Teamsters 237 was it. To the point where my father played his numbers. Guess what my father's number was? 237. Okay, so I go that far back. Okay, so 237 was there, and very much the same thing. My father has passed, but that union was there for him throughout the time that he served in NYCHA. That insurance played a role when we had to do what we had to do for him. When he got sick or we got sick. Like, his insurance took care of us. It was always, a way for us to have a healthier family. So I understood that. My mother also at one point or another worked for NYCHA, and she was in 230. She was in DC 37. Mm-hmm. So my family came up in labor. So I'm a child of labor as well. I think I became more knowledgeable at labor when I became a judge, because then I worked with the between corrections. I knew about the corrections officers. I knew about the court officers unions, and and the clerks. So I knew about that. But it really wasn't until I became district attorney that I really found the love and the appreciation for labor, and that's running a office with 1,000 employees, over 500. Who are professional staff, who are just about all represented by unions. So the constant back and forth, and it's not necessarily the work. Sometimes it's the people. And you know what? These labor unions are there. And Anthony, because your union is here more than anybody else, giving them the access that they need to the office, being transparent, just really working on behalf of your members. And for them to know that I am working with you, like, this is not a antagonistic, adversarial relationship. We don't have that kind of relationship. By the time it gets to you and I, then we got something to talk about.
Right. It shouldn't get to us. It shouldn't get
to us. Exactly. And most of the time it doesn't, So that's good. But I appreciate the work, because I appreciate the people that are doing the work for me. And I'm glad that labor provides that, entry to the middle class for so many people that may have not had that opportunity, but for the unions. I remember you all working through that whole Janus decision and holding our breath from the Supreme Court on what they were going to do. And when that came down, people thought that was going to be the end of unions. You guys make sure that wasn't going to happen.
They got that right.
And you continue to do the work. So I appreciate it. I'm here. But I also wanted to, what I've also tried to do as DA was to, not just the unions that are in my office, but for all labor to understand the role of the district attorney and how I, as a DA, play a role in the quality of life of their members if they live in my borough. So it's important that labor union members understand that if they live in the Bronx, that they want a DA that understands who they are and that I'm going to work hard for their public safety. And that it's always good. I have to keep on my government side, and then there's the political side. But when it comes to elections and everything else, we all depend on the support of labor unions to support the work that we do if we do it right and if we do it well. So labor helps keep me accountable. Whether I have them as members in my office or not, they are supposed to hold me accountable to make sure that I'm doing the job that I'm supposed to do as district attorney to keep them safe. So I want to continue to build that relationship with labor because I represent them. I work for them, and they, I want them to understand that so they could continue to support me, and I will always, always do my job, and because you're holding me, accountable. And then also, quite frankly, people don't want to think about this way, but it's good to have the DA as a friend sometimes too.
I heard
because you know
somewhere.
what? If I painted everybody with a broad brush and just thought anybody arrested is a criminal and throw away the key, then I would be wrong in doing that. I don't think things that way. But when you have a relationship with labor, when you have a relationship with Cure Violence Group, as these people come into the system, you can have a dialogue with your DA so they can let them know that this is not a kid that's like all the other kids. Just because they say he's a gang member don't mean he's a gang member.
Right.
And these are the kids of your members. These are some of your members.
Right.
These are people that may become your members because they get out of the trouble, and we want to lead them into some kind of apprenticeship that labor unions provide in order to really, do the work. Labor plays such a role in the stuff that I do, especially in reentry. Local 79 is there. There's so many of them that are there that provide opportunities for even people that are justice involved. And that is a tremendous thing because you know what? I have to prosecute people, and that's my job, and I talked about that. But when they get out, I want them to be productive members of society. And they need jobs, and they need opportunities. And one place that provides that in communities is labor. And I appreciate that. So
I appreciate
you guys do a tremendous job in keeping our communities safe.
So I'm going to get you out of here. So Bernice, the last question, and you already talked about labor and how it impacted your families. I just don't think you get any deeper than that. But tell us something we don't know about y'all. Tell me something I don't know nothing about it. It could be funny. It just can't be too serious. And don't be giving out all your little secrets, okay? My niece, because I know you got a party to go to, so come on.
That's right.
Well, a little fun thing is I'm a TikTok fanatic, and I just posted a video. It was the Beyonce Drop Challenge, so check it out.
Okay.
So I like TikTok, okay? So I'm with the millennials on that one. Yes.
Okay.
I don't even know.
All right,
Vanessa, come on.
Kind of boring.
Okay, so tell us a boring fact about you.
I love to dance. I just started roller skating again. Yeah, I love to travel. Anytime I can get out of my home, I love to travel. I don't know. That's about it. I'm boring.
That's okay. You're a hard worker.
I think, well, something about me is that people wouldn't know is that I'm a big fan of gardening. People wouldn't believe it.
You got that right.
I'm telling you, I got a little backyard or whatever, but let me tell you something. You come to my backyard,
What you got?
my roses are in place. Those tulips coming. I got perennials coming up, put the annuals in. I know how to do all that. I love that kind of stuff. When I retire, I would love to open a florist shop.
Okay. Well, that's so far down the future. And by the way,
That's what you did
you
get
gotta go
at
check
night,
out
so
her
that's why.
TikTok because she's on there acting up. That Brooklyn Democrat person. Let me tell you, ladies, I just enjoy being with y'all. Y'all know, being very supportive. We've been working together. My niece, obviously, I work with Vanessa and Darcel in a different capacity, but are very supportive. They both had tough campaigns, and we were right there with them because we believe that they are in the best position to help our members. In 371, our slogan is very easy. We want to improve the lives of our members, to improve the lives of their families, to improve the lives of the communities. And we do that by not just by providing benefits, and not just about job security, folks. It's about the things that Darcel talked about, that you don't see. That if you're stabilized in your family, your community, it helps. But all three of you are first, awesome first. And here's what I like about all three of y'all that I know. Being first is not the goal. Being first is not the end run. That y'all got more work to do. Y'all take it so seriously. I would invite all y'all back to our podcast. Y'all the first podcast of 2022, and I think it's the awesome one. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being part of us. And y'all know,
Thank you.
y'all part of 371's family.
Thank you.
Ain't nobody doubt it. Tune into our next episode where we're going to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on our workplaces and our families and our health.
Thanks for listening to Studio 371 with President Anthony Wells. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website, www.mightyunion.org. Or please leave us a review on iTunes. Until next time, Union strong, Union proud.